didn't know there were that many choices.
Yep, there's that many choices. How you doing, everybody? What's up? Welcome to Common Censored, the best show ever produced. Well, actually, we don't really produce it, but I'm joined by the always amazing Eleanor Goldfield.
Hello.
She said hi this time. That's a big moment. It's a big moment. All right, we got a lot going on as always, and the Supreme Court actually made a decision that seems like a legitimate decision for a court to make, which is that Trump's illegal tariffs are illegal, and it is kind of upending. There's a lot of aspects to this, but it's kind of upending his whole. I'm going to, fuck the world with my economic terrorism or tarifferism. Yeah, nailed it. But yes, this is from AP. Ran with Supreme Court strikes down Trump sweeping tariffs, upending central plank of economic agenda. Trump then gave just an hour ago or something, gave a press conference where he railed at the court as being idiots and not patriotic and all these things. He then announced that he'd be giving a 10% tariff to the world, which I'm not clear on why that, he's just like, it's just such a tantrum. It's such a little baby tantrum.
That's really not fair to babies, okay?
Okay.
Really not fair.
Fair enough.
As someone who's spent time around babies, none of them have ever been this psychotic.
As Dropsite News put it, the Supreme Court ruled on Friday that Trump overstepped his authority by invoking the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose aggressive tariffs at the start of his second term. The tariffs now deemed illegal. And by the way, this accounts for roughly 75% of all the tariffs he's put on. Not all of them, but a lot of them. The tariffs, now deemed illegal, have become a cornerstone of his foreign policy. And he uses them basically as a weapon to get countries to do what he wants. He used them as a weapon to try and steal Greenland. He's used them as a weapon against Canada, against China, against the EU, against so many countries to try and get them to do what he wants. And many of these countries have caved and done to some degree what he wants. So this weapon is being taken away. And when I said there's a lot of aspects to it, that's not all Trump has been using these tariffs for. But before I get to that, let me say that he announced in his press conference, and many people figured this would be true, is that he thinks he's going to get around this decision by the Supreme Court by using other tactics to create the same tariffs. However, it does seem like using those other tactics at minimum will take longer. So he can't just say 10% tariff, 20% tariff right now. They may be will need Congress's approval in certain circumstances. But also some of the techniques he was going to use to put in more tariffs only last for 150 days. So that also is not the weapon he thinks it is. But I don't, this is such a striking own goal by Trump, because for one, these tariffs are being paid for by the American people. And this is even from the case.
You're not getting a refund, by the way, in case anyone was going to wait for that.
Yeah, apparently they say a lot of the companies that have paid these tariffs, because the companies pay the tariffs, then they jack up their prices to pay themselves for the tariffs that they had to pay. You get how it works. So the cost ultimately is on the American people. This is a headline from the Cato Institute, the libertarian right-wing lunatic
good guys.
And yet even they have a headline that says the White House still can't grasp that Americans pay U.S. tariffs. Here's the thing. The White House can grasp it. They don't care. Yeah. They don't care that you and I are paying the tariffs. And so there is, I saw some of the articles saying that many of the companies that have paid these tariffs will get their money back. So billions of dollars might get refunded. But it's not going to get refunded to the American people who paid the higher prices. We've already been fucked, and it's too late. And so that's an aspect of it that's really just this. He just fucked the American people, didn't even get anything out of it. but then another aspect is that, and I covered this on a recent Substack article, that Trump's tariffs have sped up quickly the unraveling of the U.S. imperial alliances. The EU has just passed massive trade deals with India and with several countries in Latin America, Mercosur. And so Trump has facilitated large blocks of the planet moving away from the United States.
Which is like good for the planet.
Yes. No, that's the thing is I have tried to express multiple things at once and people don't seem to understand that I can do that. So I'll say Trump is facilitating the end of the US empire, and they'll go, well, yeah, but that's a good thing. And I'll go, yeah, it is a good thing, but I'm also just letting you know, like, just letting you know that Trump is doing this.
Yeah, no, I know. I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm just pointing out that is a good thing. It might not be good for us in the short term. The children of empire will not do well under a failing empire, but
yeah, Americans are screwed. We're all screwed in about 12 different ways, but might be good for the world. So there's that. Yay. But here's another aspect that has barely been covered going into this, which is Trump has been using these tariffs strategically to enrich himself and enrich his campaign. And a lot of the money that goes to his campaign ultimately will get filtered down to him and his friends and things like that. So, but in multiple ways, the only outlet that I've seen cover it kind of extensively is The Lever, which is a good outlet done. But
you say it the British way.
I prefer I prefer lever than lever. I know. I think they actually pronounce it the lever.
I like the British way of saying it.
It's just stronger, it's fucking lever.
Leave her?
No.
Okay.
You have to. Okay. Everything's about the patriarchy.
I mean, I wish the patriarchy would leave her alone, but.
Oh, leave her alone. I like how you viewed that. I picture it as just leave her.
Dude,
like, ditch her.
Honestly, we would be so much happier if, like, just don't let the screen door hit you on the way out. Like, Anyway,
so here is the lever.
No, now you're going the lever.
The lever.
What? That is not any accent.
I was going back to the lever.
No, don't. Don't.
So, The Lever said they've been covering this, and this is actually an article from back in April of last year, but Trump relaunches his tariff corruption game. And they're not talking about just how he's using it to pressure other countries. They're talking about how he would, and if you look at the timeline, it's very strategic. He puts a certain a tariff on a country, let's say on China, then that would screw Apple, right? Apple and the iPhone would be wildly fucked if you do just 50% tariffs on everything that they're importing from China. Holy God, Apple's done. But then Apple does what? They pay a bunch of fealty to Trump. They just funnel gold into Trump's hands via his super PACs, via his inauguration fund, all of those things, his libraries. I don't know what the hell else he has.
He has a library? Dude can't even read.
Say that to George W. Bush's library. They funnel it into his various, coffers, and then he gives exemptions to the tariff to the company that fed him the fealty, like a mama bird feeding a baby bird. And so the lever did, they actually went through and said, like, so he puts on this date, he puts on this tariff. This company then gives him $10 million to his super PAC. He then gives an exemption to the company. And he does this again and again and again. So this is a technique that he uses to enrich himself, enrich his super PACs, etc. And they actually have done the actual, receipts, the play-by-play of how this works with Apple, with Facebook, with all these companies that want exemptions. Big car companies, I think, have done it, etc. So that's another thing he uses these tariffs for. And I'm trying to think. I think that's all the aspects of this that I wanted to get to. It's tough to remember. But this is the first time the Supreme Court has made like a legitimate decision where you're like,
I'm surprised it was 6-3.
Yeah.
I would not have expected it to be that split.
Yeah.
Like a 5-4 is what I was thinking, but okay.
Yeah. Pretty surprising. And we'll see how he tries to get around these. And he, of course, will rage like a baby. And
I mean, the other thing is, I mean, now that I think about it, it's actually, I suppose it's not that surprising because SCOTUS is basically like a corporate court. And
Yep.
as outlined in the Powell memo in 1972, 71. Anyway, and so if they feel that their job is to support and protect corporate America, well, as you just pointed out, these tariffs can hit corporate America quite extremely, and those that don't want to keep paying, you know, extortion to Trump could just be like, look, Supreme Court, just make sure that he doesn't keep doing this because it's a pain in the ass, and we just want to make sure that we can suck off the teat of China as long as possible without you know, without them calling us out. And so,
well, that's the rift in the, yeah, you're describing well the rift in the corporate class that runs
Right.
America, that owns America, really. Some of them have long supported Trump, but many of them wanted the stability that comes with not having a Trump presidency, because stability is easier for Apple to plan,
Yeah.
you know, 5 years ahead and things like that. But some of them wanted to just rip it all up and feast on the carcass like Elon Musk. So there's
which is funny because he is a carcass.
That's true. He does have there's a strong cadaver look to him.
Mhm.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
I think it's on his father's side. He's 50% cadaver. Okay. Trump has also just allotted, or said that he's allotting $10 billion to his board of peace, which I keep trying to remind everybody, although this is incredibly destructive to Gaza, there is nothing in the mission statement that says anything about Gaza. This board of peace is something Trump is creating to try and circumvent the UN. As you well pointed out last time, the UN doesn't really have any teeth anyway, but Trump still wants to destroy the UN, and he also wants to have a large mechanism that he will be head of, even if he does actually leave the presidency in whatever 3 years. And he is permanent head of this board of peace. So if $10 billion goes to the board of peace, and then all these other billions from other countries, these mainly Arab countries that are paying to be on the board, he will, some of that money will end up in his pockets, and he knows that. So he's basically, but $10 billion is coming from the US. He hasn't said how, but so he's paying himself and his little project $10 billion. I mean, it's his corruption knows no ends. And
well, because you know, if no one ever holds him accountable for, like, why would you stop? It's the same mentality that you know, with regards to genocide. You don't wait for a genocider to stop. They're never going to be done. They have to be stopped. And you know, Netanyahu's on the board of peace, which is kind of like having Hitler preside over the Nuremberg trials. It's like this is the most grotesque, twisted operation, and of course the US is planning to build a military base in Gaza that will house like 5,000 soldiers. Sure, they're just there to play ping pong with people.
Yeah, no, it's not. There's nothing untoward going on.
You are really just like feeling the kind of like British vibe of things today.
I am erudite.
Untoward.
I'm of the upper crust. Okay.
I mean, you are.
No, I'm not.
Dude's related to Robert E. Lee.
And not really descended from.
Related. Whatever. It's the same, you know, no. And you know what's funny here? Little history.
Oh
lesson
God, do we really
y'all?
have to go into this again? We've done it. I talked to Graham about it the other day.
Little history lesson. So everybody knows that Robert E. Lee was a piece of shit. But did you know that his dad? I think it was his dad or his grandfather. It was responsible for squashing Shays' Rebellion, which was a rebellion that could
quashing, not squashing.
I thought I said quashing.
You said squashing, which would be interesting.
Well, potato. So
you lever lever.
And so the Shays' Rebellion could have actually toppled the very fledgling United States, which I think would have been a good thing. But what happened was a lot of the people who fought in the Revolutionary War for the side of the United States were basically finding their land being taken away. They weren't being paid wages and everything. And they're like, look, we fought for this independence and this independence sucks. Like, we're poor. I mean, they were white, but they were poor white people. And the founding fathers, guess what? Did not feel that they were on equal footing. White landowning, including humans, that's property owning men, were all that this country was founded to support and uplift and protect. And so when Shays' Rebellion got going, Lee's whatever grandfather, Robert E. Lee's grandfather or dad, I can't remember which one it was, basically was sent by Washington to snuff this out, to make sure that there was no actual rebellion that called for actual egalitarian principles, even in like the small ways that they were pushing for it at Shays' Rebellion. So it's like just all bad.
And that sums up Trump's Board of Peace and the $10 billion that have gone.
Look.
No, all good points made. And actually, yesterday, 2 days ago on Government Secrets, you mentioned the Founding Fathers being the landowning pieces of shit. And we covered some of the myths of George Washington and the fact that he was one of the biggest land thieves in America, and he was the richest man in America, and he had countless slaves. We went through the whole thing.
I just want you to know that I think you're doing a hell of a job pissing on your ancestors' graves.
Oh, goddamn right.
I think you're doing great.
Good. Okay. Good. All right, shall we get to it's not exactly connected to the Board of Peace, but
kind of.
Speaking of the region, Trump is now continuing to move towards war with Iran, which could be fucking horrifying. And they are sending more and more weaponry and battleships to the Middle East.
It's the biggest amassing of weaponry and troops in the Middle East since 2003, which, another little history lesson for you, 2003 is when we invaded Iraq.
And unlike Iraq, Iran has a lot of cards to play and a lot of abilities where they can fight back, and it would be fucking ugly if Trump does this. So shall I play the Lindsey Graham clip or wait?
Before you do that, okay. I just want to share this quote because if you haven't checked out Matthew Ho's Substack, you definitely should, because he does great work. And he wrote that it's a very extensive piece about why war with Iran would be a fucking terrible idea. But I just wanted to share this one line. The American military is overextended, limited in its resources, unable to be reliably resupplied by U.S. industry, and commanded by incompetent generals and admirals. It's a military in grave danger of defeat over the course of a campaign and of failing to achieve U.S. objectives. War with Iran would not just be another illegal and immoral war, but another unwinnable and stupid one as well. And this is coming from a guy who worked at the State Department. He's a Marine Corps veteran, so it's not like he knows what he's talking about. And there's much more information as to why, like he outlines exactly why this would be terrible in a myriad of ways on his Substack. So do check that out.
And my guess, I have no evidence to this, but my guess as to what behind closed doors Trump and the U.S. and the U.S. empire is demanding in this Iran deal that they're supposedly doing. Yes, they're probably demanding some nuclear things, but I think that part of it is probably to cut ties with China, which is one of Iran's main partners and would be kind of devastating to them economically, they're also devastated economically from what the U.S. is doing, but and so I think it's a non-starter probably for Iran, but that's the main goal of probably one of the biggest goals of what Trump's doing right now is to cut off any connection between Iran and China.
Well, and also the nuclear thing is always just been a red herring, because it's like Iran has said yes to nuclear inspections. They've said they've been so willing to play ball, which, by the way, it's psychotic for the only nation to ever have dropped a nuclear bomb twice to be the one demanding that people fall in line about nuclear safety.
Because they won't. They might use it. They might be crazy enough to use it.
It's like a serial killer being like, you don't have any weapons there that you could kill anyone with, do you? It's like, what the shit? It's absolutely batshit. So, and yet Iran, with the Iran nuclear deal, with inspections and everything, Iran's always been like, yeah, come on in, check it out. And yet the U.S. is like, you're not doing what we asked you to do. It's always been a red herring. It's an excuse to escalate.
So here's Lindsey Graham, 30-second clip, saying why he goes to Israel every 2 weeks.
2 weeks, dude.
Every 2 weeks, makes a pilgrimage to Israel.
Sorry you have to hear his voice.
The wars of the future are being planned here in Israel, because if you're not one step ahead of the enemy, you suffer. The most clever, creative military forces on the planet are here in Israel because they have to be to survive. So what we're looking at is that Israel is advancing down the road of new weaponry far beyond.
All right, if we're going to play a clip, we got to let it play.
He already said the thing that I came here for.
Okay, then go ahead. Take it away.
Yeah, the wars of the future are being planned in Israel. Which you're not going to find on a map, by the way. But
well, it's kind of like George W. Bush was all he talked about was terrorists, but he couldn't say terrorist. Tourist.
Yeah. And yet these are the guys being like, we need to, like, if you don't speak a language, leave. It's like, well, then go. Shoot.
Flee.
Yeah, so this is another, I mean, and Lindsey Graham's such a fucking penis wrinkle that he doesn't even realize that he's saying something atrocious. But the wars of the future are being planned. And that's actually true.
And he goes there every 2 weeks.
It's true. I mean, minus the fact that they're also being planned here, but Israel's kind of like a satellite, a satellite of U.S. empire. So
unsinkable battleship, as they've said.
So yeah, that's absolutely accurate. And this is, I mean, it is tied to the Board of Peace because that's where those wars are being planned, right? It is Orwell would not have even been able to believe like the level of backwards, what was it called? Newspeak?
Newspeak.
Yeah. And like, it is so backwards. And so like, that he's saying the quiet part loud and it's very accurate. And of course, nobody's going to call him on it because nobody calls anyone on Israel. And yeah, so they're just going to,
imagine you're literally witnessed years of genocide and then you get up in front of a mic and say, I come here every 2 weeks to see the wars of the future being planned because they're so innovative. It's so innovative what's being done here. They're genociding in a whole new way here.
I don't even understand how that works. Like every 2 weeks. How do you I barely even go to the store every 2 weeks. It's insane. How do you make that long of a trip every 2 weeks?
My guess is he has a boyfriend there. This, by the way, this is from Responsible Statecraft. Although I disagree that Trump gives a shit about the polls, but they do talk about how when George W. Bush invaded Iraq, they had manufactured consent to the point that 72% of Americans supported bombing the innocent Iraqi people. However, let's see. Do you favor or oppose the U.S. initiating an attack on Iran? 21% favored it. 49% opposed. 30 said, I don't know. Which,
that 30 is really problematic.
The people with the head in the sand is kind of scary. But the fact that it's only 21%, this is similar to those who supported an invasion of Venezuela, was at 17%. Now, this is where I disagree with Responsible Statecraft. It doesn't fucking matter what the polls say. But I just brought this up to say, Americans are not behind this. So, like, who is this for? It's clearly for the fucking dollar supremacy, the petrodollar. This is not about Americans. It's not about, like, it's certainly not about, whether Iran has democracy or it's bad guys leading Iran, all that bullshit. And as with Venezuela, the moment after they've started bombing Iran, they're going to drop all of the pretense about like, well, those protesters are, they're going to bomb protesters. Who do you think dies when you bomb a country? Like, oh no, we need to protect the protesters over there. Those poor protesters. All right, for a minute here, I'm going to give really just one of the Epstein updates. I have been covering a lot of what's been coming out with the Epstein scandal, and I have there's a big segment on it in the latest Unredacted tonight that aired last night. There'll be another big segment on it in next week's Unredacted tonight. So even though it's not a lot of this hour, I have been covering it a lot, but I just thought that I should mention that former Prince Andrew was arrested by the UK, showing that they seem to care a little more about this than the US does. However, he's already been released.
That's the thing. It's like they just did it to say that they did it.
I mean, it seems like he will still be prosecuted. But the other thing people need to know is the reason for his arrest and the reason he may be prosecuted have nothing to do with assaulting children. Okay. It has to do with the fact that he may have leaked, or maybe did, maybe the evidence is already public, but did leak state secrets to Epstein, emailing him about various things that the UK government was doing. And so that's what they're going after him for, not the pedophilia, not the fucking horror show that he was involved in. Just the fact that you might have harmed state secrets. They're also apparently, going through his old mansion or whatever and all that shit. So it is interesting that seems to be some dominoes falling in other countries. There's some people, some CEOs have had to step down in other countries, not in the U.S. In the U.S., you're not seeing much of anything other than other than the defined scapegoats of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Outside of that, nothing. Les Wexner was spoken in front of Congress, but it was, as far as I've heard about it, largely bullshit. He just says, I don't know, the guy ran my finances. What did I know? He stole money from me. But as I'm going to cover in the next Unredacted tonight, it seems Les Wexner was largely the one directing the whole blackmail extortion ring. So, but yeah, these updates continue to come up. The scandal continues to fly, which is why Trump continues to do everything he can to try and cover it up, to throw, hey, shiny ball over there. Everyone look over there. So, all right, let's get to some more on ICE and the ICE attack of the United States. Because you got to remember, Trump's not just at war with other countries. He's at war with Americans. So.
Which, it's always been, imperialism has always been a home game, which I think is important to point out, because I think I've talked about this before on the show, like the issue I have with talking about imperial boomerang, like, yes, and this has always been how the U.S. has operated since its founding. So I recently, and this will air on Monday, Project Censored, recently spoke to 3 rad journalists in the South, Deshaun Harrison, Asia Arnold, and T. Troutman, about how the W.E.B. Du Bois quote, as the South goes, so goes the nation. And it's a really powerful conversation about how, like, what we're seeing has always been the United States. It's just that people dismissed it because it was in the South, right? It's in the South where there's just a bunch of like hillbillies who don't know any better, or they're already they're evil. There's nothing you can do about it. And like, that's where slavery happened. So like, what do you expect? It's like, no.
But there was some of it going on in the North.
Well, yes, but the South is really like a stark reflection of who the U.S. really is.
Right.
And it likes to say like, oh, that was the Confederacy. It wasn't the Union, right? Like, they were traitors. And it's like, were they? Or is that is that the foundation of this nation? Right. Today's police are descended in terms of like their work from slave patrols, right? The, ICE kidnapping people, that is slave catchers, right? The fact that ICE is also attacking and arresting and kidnapping indigenous people. It's like there were dozens of these scalp edicts. Like, you get paid if you bring us a native scalp. It's like, this is always who the U.S. has been. Right. And it's just easy to say like, oh, the Confederacy, like they were all traitors and now we're all good. Like, like we had the Civil Rights Act and now, racism is solved. Thanks to that. And thanks Obama. And it's a way to basically shove it aside and say, that's not who I am. That's not who we are as a nation. And you see this too, right? Like at protests, like, this isn't who we are, like at anti-ICE protests. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Sorry.
Yeah,
read a, like, look at actual U.S. history, and you'll be like, this is oh, this is who we are. Oh man, that sucks. And it's like, it sucks. And it's also really important to recognize it, because if you don't recognize it as baked into the United States, then you will start thinking that shit like reform will work. And that's what I wanted to bring up here, which is a piece by Truth Out that shows the documents brought forward by the group called American Oversight. They filed a FOIA request last year, and basically they found that ICE agents are totally trained on the law and de-escalation. They're aware of what that is.
Well,
they've been trained in it.
And this is one of the biggest arguments that
The
people
Democrats
use. The Democrats or just liberals who don't know what the hell they're talking about, they'll go, we need to increase the training. They need to be trained on this stuff. They need to train in de-escalation or whatever. It's like, yeah,
they've done the thing.
They did the thing. It didn't matter. And when they have training, it's like 70% of their training is how to shoot straight, how to kill properly.
Yeah, officers were advised that they must obtain a warrant before searching an individual or making an arrest.
So they stopped faking the warrants. They stopped waving menus at the door and saying, let us in. That totally stopped.
They are required to identify themselves as immigration enforcement, which they've also not been doing because they're all masked and wearing wearing vests and things that don't say ICE on them, that riding around in unmarked cars. The officers were told their badges should be clearly displayed when making a stop.
Right.
Yeah.
Literally, they're wearing face masks. One of them, I saw a photo of one of them wearing a face mask that said across it, "Not ICE."
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're told to respect constitutional rights, which means that they're aware of what constitutional rights are. So again, like, this is the issue is not training. So whenever you hear some Democrats say that, know that they're full of shit. The other thing I wanted to, and this is directly related, of course, because training is oftentimes not just used to, to sort of placate people. It's also like quite a windfall. And I wanted to go, I can't remember if I already shared this, but so for instance, training and technologies such as body cams, tasers, less than lethal weapons, predictive policing software, these make corporations a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Training costs money, right? Of course, it costs money to train all these Rambo dudes. And that flows to private companies that are usually run by former police chiefs and so-called criminal justice experts, not, of course, community organizations that are demanding accountability. So the training is not, it's not just like a throwaway. It's actually a huge boon for these businesses that are also the ones including like the extreme AI and surveillance complex, right? So it's like, it's not only is training not the problem, or not only is training like not going to fix the problem, it's part of the problem, right? It's part of the problem because it distracts us. We think like, oh, now they're going to go get trained in like how to not be a piece of shit, which they were technically already trained in, but it makes corporations a shit ton of money that then continue to feed off of this, concentration camp industrial complex, which means that it has to continue to be boosted. And so it's a self-serving cycle.
And another part of the cycle is these companies get richer by doing this, by the AI deals, the camera deals, the body cam deals, the prison deals, all of it. And guess what they do with a portion of that money? They gain political power, because you can buy political power. So once they're donating, largely to both sides, I mean, maybe a little more to Republicans, but largely to both sides, once you're donating, you control those Congress people largely, because they don't want to alienate you and lose their $10 million donation to their super PAC and then lose their seat. So they use it for political power.
Yeah. So I think, it's important that we recognize that. And again, that ties into understanding how this is really like, it's baked in, it's endemic to the United States. And that's why a lot of people are saying like abolishing ICE is actually the centrist, that's the centrist stance at this point, right? It's an agency that is considerably younger than I am, right? So the idea that we have to have it, that we can't live without it, it's like, that's bullshit. We've lived without it for most of the United States history. It is an overt fascist escalation that is totally unnecessary. And also, I think like, it's important to note how this ripples outwards to other issues. Another thing that I wanted to share, which was also, I think I forgot to send it to you, Lee. That's my bad. But
you bastard,
I'm fired. This was also shared by Truth Out, but Minneapolis and St. Paul
what's
labor
the title?
and then unions vow largest rent strike. They've announced plans to carry out what they said would be the largest rent strike in the U.S. in the last 100 years if Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota does not meet the urgent demands for an eviction moratorium and rent relief. And they said part of the reason that they're doing this is because of the ICE occupation of the Twin Cities. And they point out that the daily presence of these agents has taken a painful economic toll on poor and working class folks in the Twin Cities. Over 35,000 low-income Twin Cities households were already unable to afford the rent before the federal siege. Estimates show over $47 million in lost wages among people who have not been safe to go to work, and at least $15.7 million in additional rental assistance needed due to lost household income. So we forget like how this ripples outwards. Or, I mean, you might think about it if you actually sit down and really do, take the time. But of course, people are afraid to go to work. If I was undocumented and there's literally like ICE crawling all over the place, I'm not going to just go do to work. And yet at the same time, if I don't, I could be evicted because I'm not making money in order to pay rent, right? So this is how these things ripple outwards to all aspects of our lives, right? Housing, healthcare, all of these things. And so this is why these unions are pushing for this strike, because people need this relief. And I do not expect Tim Walz to be a good guy on this, but I think this also shows the power of I can't remember who said it, but they said sometimes the biggest tool that workers have is simply to cross our arms and not go to work. And I think that this is one of those instances. San Francisco teachers proved that the other day by winning a historic contract that does include actually sanctuaries for folks so as not to be at risk of being kidnapped by ICE. And so I think that that's really, when we look at all of these things together, education, immigration, healthcare, housing, they're all interconnected because these are all parts of our lives and our communities. And so I think this is a great thing to watch. I would definitely recommend that folks keep an eye on this rent strike. And, maybe it's an idea for folks if this is, something you're dealing with.
And just to go back to, you mentioned AI and surveillance used by ICE and those companies enriching themselves. I have already talked, and I talked about it again on Unredacted last night, but about
last night.
Oh yeah, sometimes I have to try not to say there's a new Unredacted tonight.
I suppose you'll have to go, there's no Unredacted tonight this evening.
Go back to the British. This evening.
Around supper time.
But the Ring camera ability to now surge, they're just using it for lost puppy dogs, right? But the new update that I have not yet covered, although I covered it on my Substack, is that an internal email that was, leaked or somehow snatched by 404 Media. It was from the founder of Ring Cams, and he was basically telling everyone at Ring Cams that, guess what? They're not going to use the doggy search for only doggies. They're going to use it to, quote, zero out crime, which means tracking everyone. So that's Amazon's Ring cameras that are slowly moving towards creating a panopticon in all of our neighborhoods everywhere. Well, and that's internal emails. That's the stuff they don't want you to see.
That's what's so twisted about it. It's like it's one thing to live in a surveillance panopticon. It's another thing to basically build it yourself.
I know. They just voluntarily put it up.
You're like like if I honestly, if I see a Ring camera at a friend's house, I'm just gonna Sharpie it.
No, you just smear dog dew on it.
I'm not touching dog shit. What is the matter with you?
Plastic bag. What's the matter with you?
Plastic bag.
Who would literally would grab it without the plastic bag? What's wrong with you?
Why are you just walking around with dog shit in a bag?
Disgusting. Why would you touch it without the bag? Yeesh.
What's wrong with a Sharpie? It's just a lot cleaner.
So gross. You brought that up. So realleadcamp.substack.com is where that article is if you want to read that article. But yes, did you also want to get to this article?
Oh, so I think this visual, sorry for folks listening to this. It's not that I don't love you, but do check out the map, because I think that sometimes, look, I'm not even a visual learner, but like sometimes a visual is just This is from reporting by the Star.
You were able to get to it? Wait, you gonna register?
Oh, womp womp.
I don't know how you did that.
I guess I registered.
Cheater. Okay,
anyway,
so apparently we're showing this to no one.
Can you?
Oh my god. There we go. Hold on. Let me make you full screen. There we go. Those yellow lines are showing you.
So wait, I don't know if you can tell, but each yellow dot is a human being that's being shuttled around. Can we see this? Can you see that? I don't know. Anyway, why did it get so dark?
I did that so the reflection wouldn't, you don't have to call out. Every time I help make the show better, you like to make a scene about it. So
because that wasn't clear that it was better. Anyway, so this is reporting by the Star Tribune, and each single yellow dot is a human being that's being shuttled around detention centers and basically like holding cells and things like that. And this is, I mean, the amount of infrastructure required.
You mean these are immigrants or so-called immigrants that have been snatched up by ICE and shipped to these detention centers, largely in the South?
So dots move, and again, as the South goes, so goes the nation. Just pointing that out.
And I don't mean they were just grabbed up in the South; they were grabbed across the nation. They're then sent south because generally the Trump administration has an easier time in the courts down there. Florida,
Louisiana is a hot spot, and so again, I think this also ties into what I was talking about with like the U.S. doesn't want to admit how the South is so much of its past, but also its future, and basically what this does is that that's, as they point out, most of the people who are detained end up in detention concentration camps far from where they are they're from, which of course not only makes it more difficult for their family to keep track of them, to know where they are, but it makes it much more difficult to access support and legal aid, because you got to find like somebody who has the ability to practice law in that area, whatever. And so
half the time they legit can't find someone for weeks.
Right.
That's been illegitimately detained.
So they point out that, for instance, in the West, people are moved hundreds of miles and funneled into a small number of large capacity hubs in Arizona and California. So in like the entire West, they're moved hundreds of miles. Detention facilities in the South, of course, as you just noted, hold the largest capacity. Facilities in El Paso and Alexandria, Louisiana, serve as national deportation hubs. And so immigrants from around the country increasingly concentrate there. And there's a hub in Pennsylvania, and in this hub in Pennsylvania, there was a high number of solitary confinements reported there in 2025. And again, these are people who are kidnapped for just being migrants. And some of them aren't even some of them are green card holders. Some of them are citizens. Some of them, as I pointed out, are indigenous. So this map really shows like the extent of this network of human trafficking is what I mean, let's call it what it is. It's human trafficking. And the amount of energy and resources that go to human trafficking and then there's of course this surge to build more concentration camps. They're pulling money from FEMA in order to do this. It's like I think sometimes just seeing the visualization of how extensive this is important, and also recognizing that these cross sections are happening wherever we are. And so there's a way that we can stand in between one or several of any of these single yellow dots that represent a human being. But again, this is reporting done by the Star Tribune, and I think it's worth uplifting, and check that out if you can. It's not behind a paywall.
They let you through the paywall.
It's not a paywall. You're just gonna sign up to get their fucking newsletter.
Oh my god! What are they paying you to do these ads? We got a couple more stories coming here, but I just wanted to say real quick, you can follow Eleanor's work at. I know you like to give different ones.
Thanks for your pep talk. Artkillingapathy.com is a good one. You can also follow me at eleanorgoldfield.substack.com.
And I'm at reallycamp.substack.com. I'd love for you to sign up over there. I have new columns weekly, and you can watch Unredacted tonight. New episode just came out last night, and it is a banger, man. Fucking banger. The best, maybe the quickest place to go is leecamp.com/unredacted. That'll take you to the entire Unredacted Tonight playlist, and check it out. I go through the one Epstein revelation that no one seems to want to talk about. I go through how Trump, this was talked about a little bit earlier in this show right here, but how Trump is facilitating the end of the U.S. empire, and so much more. So, do you want to go back to this? Or
sure.
Okay.
Okay. So this was a story that broke a couple of days ago, and then big tech confirmed it, that the DHS had sent over subpoenas to Meta and Google, who basically they wanted to know who was making anti-ICE posts. And major tech firms have now said, yeah, we did the thing. Which, of course, nobody's expecting Meta and Google to be like, I don't think that's fair.
We did the thing, meaning they revealed who were making these posts so that the government could go after people for their free speech.
Google, Meta, and Reddit have acknowledged that they complied with DHS's subpoenas seeking to identify users who have condemned or denounced immigration and customs enforcement. So these, first of all, I mean, I'm not really up on the exact legality of all of this, but of course they don't give a shit. But I do know that there's a difference, because this was not a judge that issued these subpoenas. It was DHS. So my understanding is that big tech could have been like, run along and get me a judge order, but they didn't. They just complied.
Oh my God, they're just bending down to Trump whatever he wants.
Of course.
They don't even wait.
The subpoenas.
They're like, where do we send the bribe? Is it, do you want unmarked bag or marked bag? And we just leave that under the porch. Does the White House have a porch? Okay, we'll put it on the porch.
So at least one corporation said that that it had notified relevant users and given them 2 weeks to fight the subpoena in court before the company releases their anti-ICE missives and posts. So I'm sure they feel like they're being really, nice by giving people that heads up. So basically, careful what you post, people have been abducted and kidnapped for writing op-eds, right? These are the times that we live in. That's not to say that I think that we should comply in advance in the sense of just, not doing what we can to protect our communities. But if there's a post that just says, fuck ICE or something, you don't need to share it. Right. I think that, sharing things like know your rights and all of this stuff, and sharing information about
more informative stuff. Yeah.
Right. About community gatherings and things like that. It's we don't need to be performative, like we don't need to do their job for them by being performatively anti-ICE. Now, of course, with someone like me, it's like, it's not difficult. I'm like, I have an art show later today where like a lot of the art is anti-ICE art, and me sharing a picture of it to try to get people to come out. It's like, yeah, well, I might have shot myself in the foot there, but it's like, with all of this exists on a spectrum of like how we want to show up online, recognizing that we live in this kind of situation. So just be aware, if you weren't already, that this is the kind of environment that we're in. And I would say that this is something that people should be aware of anyway, because they were watching your social media long before this.
True.
So yeah.
Okay, I want to shift to kind of good news for a second.
Holy shit.
As many of you know, the UK made the group Palestine Action a terrorist organization. They then were arresting, and I played some of the video clips of them arresting, grandmas and anyone who held up a sign that said, "I support Palestine Action," or something similar. They were arresting them just for having a sign, just for sitting there with a sign that said, "I'm against genocide." And then my favorite ones were then some of the people trying to mock them would walk up to the cops and be like, "I support genocide. I love what Israel's doing. I love genocide." And the cops don't arrest them, just the people saying, "I support Palestine Action." Well, the High Court in Britain has overturned that designation of Palestine Action. Therefore, this is no longer illegal. It's no longer illegal to support them. And anyway, here's a quick video of the moment that like the High Court has announced it and the cops are realizing it, etc. So with and we're back to our biggest garbage outlet.
You can go home now.
God, so fucking British.
It vindicates everything we've been doing to defend our civil liberties.
Arrested 5 times and kind of looks like the opposite.
Why is the music so
I know.
loud? So annoying. Damn it, what are you doing?
Is precisely the principles that the British state claims to represent: justice, democracy.
Anyway,
That's laughable.
the
British
music.
state has never.
Well, he
supported-
said claimed.
I know.
But I'm muting it because the music is really ruining the moment. But it is nice to see all these people. Some of them were saying, "I've been arrested 5 times," and of course, all those things it seems are going to be thrown out. And it is a nice little win, especially for all those people who were sitting out there in the cold protesting this utter bullshit in the UK. So nice to see. Nice to see a win sometimes.
And I believe I saw too that several of the people who had been on hunger strike are now being released on bail.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So yeah, big win there. And then I just want to bring you one more story. Trump is desperate to cover up the Epstein files. By the way, we've seen that he's in the files 36,000 times, but that's the redacted versions. Apparently he's in the files like 1 million times in the unredacted version that we haven't gotten to see.
Well, no one's gotten to see it, right?
No, the Congress people can go in and view it without any recording devices. However, even that version has a lot of redactions. But anyway, apparently he's in them like 1 million times. So he's so desperate. And what do you do when you're desperately trying to distract from the fact that you're a pedophile? You bomb Iran, you kidnap Maduro, but what else? Any guesses?
Have a bake sale.
Aliens. Trump wants you to focus on aliens. He has said he will release files on aliens and UFOs.
Wait, what was the sub-headline there?
President Trump had lashed out at a former President Obama earlier Thursday for telling a podcaster that aliens were real.
Wait, Obama told a podcaster that aliens were real?
I didn't follow that story, but
dude, what is this timeline?
But he's now directed his administration to release files related to aliens, extraterrestrial life, and unidentified flying objects. It was the latest effort by Trump to stir anticipation for the release of secret government documents, even as he continues to lash out at reporters over the release of the Epstein files and his connections to the disgraced financier. I hate it. They all call him a financier. Call him a fucking pedophile. Call him a sex trafficker.
Well, this is New
Call
York
him-
Times, Lee.
All of them. They all do it.
I know, but I'm saying, like, don't expect to read it
Financier.
here.
What is the defining characteristic of Epstein? Is it that he's a financier?
Also, I don't even know what the financier is. It's like just a capitalist, right? Like, it's not a job.
It's so bullshit that they refer to him as that. But anyway, he says, based on the tremendous interest shown. And by the way, at another point when he was trying to cover up the Epstein files, he sent one of the most right-wing Congress people, I can't remember her name, onto the Joe Rogan show to talk about aliens. And even Joe Rogan, who's like loves aliens and is so dumb on so many of these things, even he was like, you're saying the aliens did what to you? And like she was trying to say, like, I saw the documents, they have dead aliens or whatever. And even Rogan was like, that sounds ridiculous. They have energy weapons. What'd you say? But that's how desperate Trump is. It's just look up in the sky, you idiots.
Well, and also, like, what I'm wondering actually what kind of documents these would be. Would it be like NASA sending out a, they because we've sent out these little, what do they call them? Like broadcasts, basically. Like if they were to reach alien life, it shows like a diagram of a human body, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like, is it that kind of shit? I imagine it's pretty boring reading.
No, there's a lot of unidentified flying objects. They're just not alien. They're just not aliens.
Yes, but then what is the
So,
release files on aliens?
I don't know what they're going to release. It's probably some of the stuff they've already released. If you want to know what that is the Pentagon, usually jet fighters and things like the pilots saying, "Oh, I saw a thing. It moved in a way I could
I know
never."
that.
It's all those reports. What do you mean? What is it?
But what does that have to? But I get the UFO thing because every dude in like Iowa has seen a flying saucer. But
they've had one up their butt actually. A lot of anal probing.
I'm talking about aliens. Like, what possible state files could there be about aliens? Like, legit.
I assume there's a lot of anal probes. They've all these fellas are getting anal probes.
Okay. I feel like I'm not getting any answers.
I don't know what they have. How could I know what they have? My point is just yet another ridiculous distraction from the fact that this man is a fucking pedophile. Like that's all I'm saying.
That'd be nice if we can get an alien to say that. That would make it into the alien files.
It's so good, and their efforts to distract are so pathetic.
As the saying goes, was it? I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson that said, like, what if there is intelligent life out there and they rode past our planet and was like, no intelligent life here? I mean, moving on.
If they're doing
but
that,
I'm like accurate.
If they're doing that kind of space travel,
yeah,
then they probably do view us at maximum like monkeys. Like,
oh, that's being generous.
Yeah, no, it's being generous. Like, it could be ants. But at maximum, I know they work together. At maximum, you'd be like, "Oh, look at those little weird monkeys down there." Anyway,
I'd say at maximum spider cricket. Those things are terrifying.
Really anti-spider cricket.
Oh, dude, they're so creepy. Oh,
we had 2 spider crickets in our massive studio here. As you can tell, one of the nicest studios in all of New York City, and yet. Stop it. And yet, those 2 spider crickets Eleanor has not slept for months. They're
just, like, they've got like this bulbous center and then they have these little it's
similar
long legs. It's all so
Trump.
Creepy.
It's very similar to Trump.
So creepy.
All right. We're going to wrap up there, but I will be back Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific with another live stream. New Unredacted tonight. If you haven't watched that, you can check it out right now. LeeCamp.com/unredacted. You guys are the best. Well, go follow all of Eleanor's works, Project Censored, ArtKillingApathy.com, EleanorGoldfield.substack.com. All right. You're the best. Keep fighting the revolution. We'll have laughter.